Welcome to the Spiritual Principles Made Practical podcast. Today we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, depression. So people have all kind of different responses to depression, and unfortunately, most of them don't really deal with the cause, right? Because I'm huge on defining the cause and the effects of what we do. And, I mean, spending money, getting drunk, you know, all kind of things that people do don't deal with the cause of depression. The cause of depression very clearly, and I've proven this in my own life because, boy, I'll tell you, talk about depression. Have I had depression? Oh, yeah. Is that depression is a sign that there is wisdom and insight currently available to us if we'll only slow down and listen more closely. So when I have depression, I slow down and I listen, and what I hear is that you're failing, you're going broke, your whole spiritual thing is a bunch of BS and it's leading nowhere, and that, who do you think you are? And you're just failing from every place you're looking at. And it's like, okay, I need to just allow those thoughts to be. Don't fight them, right? Because if you fight them, they get stronger, right? If you try to deny them, they get stronger. So don't do that. Just acknowledge, okay, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I feel like I'm failing, and let's take an honest look at that and see if there's if that's true. And in my case, is not true. I mean, somebody asked me, how I was doing, and I said, well, depends on the point of view that you have. From one point of view is, I'm impatient that my growth and my mind, body, spirit alignment isn't getting greater faster. And so I'm frustrated, and sometimes I get depressed and angry about that, and so on. But from a larger perspective, I haven't given up, and the only real failure is giving up, that I'm continuing to get greater insights. I'm continuing to resonate more powerfully with other people and with the wisdom that I've gained in meditation, become conscious of in meditation. It was always there. All the wisdom that exists is already within you. It's a matter of just being conscious of it so that we can consciously direct it for our benefit. But the bottom line is that in depression, it's a sign. It's a sign to listen more closely. And that when I listen more closely to all those negative thoughts, I say, well, yeah, they're there. And, I can justify them, from some point of view, but from most points of view, they're just not true. They're just not true. And what happens is that I know that I've accepted the truth of my, what's of the thoughts in my mind, of not that the thoughts are true, but that the thoughts exist, right? So I have a lot of thoughts in my mind that exist that are not true, but they do exist, and gotta acknowledge that if I'm gonna be accepting of what's true, then I have to acknowledge what's exists, and part of what exists is I have negative thoughts in my mind. It's not a huge deal, not the end of the world, because I can choose whether or not to act on those thoughts, right? So if I had the thought that, this is just stupid, just give up now. If I actually gave up, if I stopped meditating, if I stopped recording podcasts, if I stopped going to Toastmasters, if I stopped uh, sharing the wisdom that I have, if I stopped all of that and said in favor, I'm just gonna drink my sorrows away. Yeah, that would be giving up, and that would be failure. But I'm not doing that. I'm hanging in there. And so I haven't failed, and that's the real truth. The only thing that I could say negative is that I'm impatient about my rate of progress. Okay, I accept that. I accept that. And and onward I go. And one of the ways that I know that I'm making progress is that my communication skills continue to get greater, and I continue to resonate. My self-acceptance is getting greater, And I'm seeing that because I'm connecting more deeply with more people. And so then that shows me that I'm creating greater mind, body, spirit alignment. And that's, a good thing. I mean, so oftentimes I've told myself, and I believe this thought and the emotion that's tied with it is that anytime I feel that I'm growing spiritually, I'm at peace because I'm convinced that that is doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I just when I feel that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, I have this tremendous sense of peace and well-being. And that's the biggest win of all, right? Because all of the other stuff is all geared towards having greater peace and well-being, right? So if I already have the greater peace and well-being, then I've already succeeded, I've already won. And that's a good thing. And then the other stuff of clients and revenue and uh, deeper relationships and taking ownership more of my talents and abilities. That's all secondary to being conscious of being well, of being at peace, of being, happy and centered and stuff. And because that's the ultimate goal. And those other things are not goals in of themselves. They're just measurements of how I'm doing in creating that sense of well-being that in which alignment and well-being is a huge part. So look at depression differently. It's a sign to slow down and listen more closely, accept the thoughts, and accept that we have the power to choose which thoughts we act on. So if we act, whatever thoughts we act on, we get more of the emotion tied to that thought. So if we have a thought that's imbued with peace and well-being, then we act on that thought and our experience of peace and well-being grows. And that's the ultimate success. And if we have a thought that says that, it's this spiritual growth thing is a fool's errand and it's not really working and I'm just stupid to even try and I should give up, we look at the emotion tied to that thought and we go, I don't want that painful negative emotion. I'm not going to act on that thought. I'm not going to give up. And if you'll read through the biographies of people that have been viewed as being hugely successful, there's one thing that you're going to find in all of them, and that is that they refuse to give up. That's the common thread. Because every time that you take another effort at moving forward and what we're inspired and what brings us joy and happiness, every time we move forward, our belief in ourself increases. And ultimately, it's our belief in ourself that gets reflected back to us by the world. And so once again, I'm going to recommend my book, Believing in Ourself, The Master Skill. Because every time that we try again, every time that we pick ourselves up again to try again, we believe in ourselves more. And ultimately, that is what's going to tip the scales. So you can get that book on Amazon. Links to the book are on my website, www.thoughtcoachingbyscott.com. I offer coaching because the whole trick in all of this, right, is to be aware of our thoughts and to be able to choose which thoughts we act on. That's the whole story. That's the key to life. And if you do that, you're home free. And I can help with that. And so it's sometimes, it's hard for us to see our own forest from the trees, and it's helpful to work with other people. You're capable of it. You don't need my help, but it's here if you want it. And it's really helped a lot of people because I got to tell you, the amount of thoughts that we have that are unconscious are huge. And if we can move those from the unconscious to the conscious and then choose which ones to act on, then we have freedom to control our life and make it everything we want it to be. And I can help. So to schedule a free introductory coaching session, and I like this, I'm fond of saying that If you haven't had a coaching session with me, you haven't had a coaching session with me because this is not your average coaching session. This is this is an avenue for you to experience tremendous increase in joy and energy that beyond what you may have thought was accessible. And like I say, we all believe some of what we hear, more of what we see, but we believe everything that we experience. And if you haven't experienced a thought coaching session with me, you haven't experienced a thought coaching session with me. And I really recommend you give it a shot. Doesn't cost anything. First one's free. Anyway, you can schedule that by reaching me at scottfriedman40 at gmail.com, SCOTTFRIEDMAN40 at gmail.com. And we'll have a grand old time. All right. Looking forward to it. Bye.